Laptop computer spins onto the screen, opens, and displays ATP Education Program webinar series, closes, and then spins off the screen.
Hi, I'm Kelly Key, and I have been in the field of special education for over 25 years. I'm the Assistive Technology Coordinator for Barrington School District in Barrington, Illinois. I have had roles as both the Assistive Tech Coordinator, a special education teacher, as well as a school administrator. And I'm excited to share with you lesson planning with core in mind. I'm going to talk a little bit about lesson plan approach as well as the target vocabulary word approach. So here we go. So as I just mentioned, there are a couple different types of planning when you want to make sure that you're targeting core vocabulary in your lesson planning. And one is the target vocabulary approach. This is where the focus is on one or two words. So the entire lesson is really centered around those specific words. There are many different positive benefits to this, and I will get into that in a little bit. But then there's the activity first approach. And this is where you have an activity or you have a lesson that you already have created, and then you pull some different vocabulary words and phrases that can be used throughout the lesson that you're going to focus on. So I'm going to start with a target vocabulary focus. The benefits to this approach are staff becomes more fluent in core vocabulary. Staff gets more comfortable with modeling these words because there's less words to model at a time. Families are more comfortable with core vocabulary and modeling. Students have many opportunities to view and hear these same words over and over again. Students are also using core words then to communicate both verbally and with AAC. And students are not only learning where these words are and how to say them, but also the meaning behind these words. And they're able then to generalize the use of the words. And then students are able to transition to larger vocabulary sets or dynamic display devices with greater ease. So one thing with this approach is that I always say that if anybody is going to walk into a classroom that is targeting one or two core words, that anybody walking into that classroom should know what the target word or words are within the first 2 minutes. Because they're going to be hearing it verbally, they're going to see it posted around the room, they're going to see people modeling it, again, both visually and verbally, all throughout the day. So when they walk in, those words should be emphasized and should be used a lot, and someone should be able to recognize what that word is right away. So here's an example of what this looks like. When we first started using this approach many, many years ago, we actually would sit down in team meetings and we would map out for the school year what words we would target during certain times. And I have a little calendar. I'll show you what that looks like in a little bit. But basically, staff would choose one or two words and they would choose how long they were going to target those words. So it could be, 2 words for 2 weeks. It could be 1 word for 1 week. It could be 3 words for the entire month. Really, I leave it up to each individual team how many words they want to target and for how long. I think sometimes it depends on where the staff is, how young the students are, and things like that. So what we would do is we'd actually sit down, we'd fill out the calendar, we'd figure it out for the year, and then we would fill out this form. It's really become 14 years later in our initiative, it's become well-versed, and we just know that if the target word is go, we post the word go, and we emphasize the word go, and we model the word go. But really to help staff understand how do we even target this and what are some of the phrases that go with that word, we would fill out this form. And so what we did was we would write down the activity on the left, the activity or the lesson. We basically wrote down the daily schedule on the left. And then on the right, we would then write down some core phrases that we could use to target those words. So for example, coming into school, We know that we can target the words, let's go, or go in when they're at their cubby. Oh, it needs to go on the hook. It needs to go in the cubby. When it's time to transition, we need to go line up. Let's go out the door, and then we'll go down the hall, and we're going to the motor room. So you get the idea. So the target word is go. We try to think of what are the different phrases that we could target with that word. Now, we always say that we talk to our students visually and verbally. So staff are modeling this, of course, verbally, but then also on our universal core boards, they are pointing to the word go while they are saying the words. And depending on the language level of the students, we may even be modeling even beyond go as well. Here's just another example of that. The activity, as we got a little more well-versed, we would actually write down a little bit more information about what we could do during that activity. This target word is get, and they have it chosen to work on it for 2 weeks. You can see up on the board, we have the word get. We have a video that goes with each one of our target words. And then also on the low-tech board, we have the wiki stick around the word get, the target word. It really does help the students both, again, using devices or even verbally. And then it helps the staff so much with that modeling piece and having that comfort level. Here's an example of when the target word was make. We have books designed around those words. You can see that they're making a silly face, and there's different directions that go with making a silly face. Like we need to make a face, let's make a hat. Now it's time to make the eyes. So we pair that fringe up that goes with the activity with the target word make. And then again, just walking into a classroom, you should know what the target vocabulary word is because it should be posted everywhere. We start with outside of the classroom door. We want to make sure that anybody going to that classroom knows what the target vocabulary word or words are, and they can even practice on the core board or on students' devices even before they enter the room. So that way they have that comfort level. So this says, welcome to our classroom. Our core word of the week is, and they chose to, help and me. And these are two that go well together. Please help us practice by using the word in natural communication opportunities. Here's an example. I love this one because it was in a regular education kindergarten classroom. The teacher does a core word of the week because she has a couple students with special needs in there that truly benefit from it. But really, she saw the magic of all of her students benefiting from using those target words as well. And then they were excellent peer models when it came to verbally and visually modeling for their peers that really did need it. This is an example of a note that often goes home with students when the powerful word is, let's say, go here. They have all different things that you can do with the word go. And then words that you can pair with the word go, like go on, or go under, go down, go up, go over. So other core words you can pair with the powerful word when you're making phrases. And then obviously this is posted in the classroom as well for staff to see. This is for a student that is fully included, has a communication device that is on an iPad. And so she travels to all different classrooms. And so we wanted her, the people that work with her, to know exactly what words she was targeting. So this is right on the other side of her device. And it was very helpful. This, in a lot of our classrooms, you're going to see giant core boards all over based off our universal board. And this particular one is made with painter's tape. Painter's tape on the wall, easy to come on and off. And as the students are learning the core words, the teacher is adding them to the core board. So this is towards the middle of the year. You can see there's lots of core words and the students are gradually learning them. Staff is gradually learning them, not only the word, how to say it, how to model it, the meaning behind it, and where it's located. A lot of teachers will have different centers that they've created based on the core words as well. So the core target word is get here. The teacher created a song and a poem to go with it. Turn it on, or actually it looks like that. Oh, that has to do with a switch activated activity with the word turn that was the week before. So they keep the word from before on this as well for review. And then they can write the word get. And then what this particular teacher used is she had a Cheap Talk voice output device with her voice recorded on it. And she used PAL pads to connect to that device. And so the students were actually then able to hear those, the target word paired with another core word. So if they pressed that word off, it said get off. If they pressed the word it said get it. If they press the word on, it said get on. You get the idea, get up. And one of our speech and language pathologists in the district, Deidre Dobbles, and I collaborated together, and she created this incredible curriculum that we use in our early childhood and elementary programs. And we do have some of our middle school and high school students curriculum now created as well, but I'm going to share with you the early childhood because it is complete, and then talk to you a little bit about the older programs and what we do for them as well. So we call it our powerful words. Our powerful words curriculum, for each one of those, we actually, for every word, we have a video model on how to use it in a variety of different contexts. We have a song that goes with that powerful word, and the song actually is only comprised of core vocabulary words. We have an extension activity, visuals for staff to use. We have books that go with a book to go with each word, an art activity, a sensory activity, and then we have take-home activities and a home connection. So this sheet here is one that you would see posted into the classroom. Everybody, again, knows the powerful word is stop, and here are different phrases that go with that word. We've chosen at our early childhood level 16 words we wanted to target based off of research. And then we also need to pair those up with those important other core vocabulary words that we would use regardless of what our powerful word is. So then we call these the Elite 8, the words that we can pair up easily with these target words to make phrases. Then in elementary, we've bumped up from there. We utilize all 16, and then we have another set of words. Middle school, again, all of those plus another set of words. We have a writing component, so they have a journal. We have a song, and we have the lyrics that go with it. And then this is just an example of what the book looks like. So this is just the stop book. Notice it's all core vocabulary words, and that was just part of it. For our middle school and elementary, or our middle school and high school students, we are using actual photos of people versus the cartoon characters. And so this is just one example of what the book would look like at that level. And sometimes they have the visual supports, and that's more for just to help with scripts for communication in that. But most of them also, if it's working on reading, they're not pairing them with the symbols anymore. We have sign language component that goes with it. At our elementary and early childhood level, we have a young child that's doing the videos. At our middle and high school levels, we have our hearing itinerants have put together sign language videos. And then we have our video models on how to use those words. Again, for the real young students, we have young students that are demonstrating that. For our elementary and middle and high school, we have adults that are doing that. So like here, the example is the powerful words are good and bad. They show in the video, these are just screenshots of the video. They show in the video how to model it on boards and devices. And then they act out, being good and bad. And so they're really teaching them, again, the meaning behind these words, how to say those words, helping the staff get comfortable with modeling those words. There are some that are already pre-made. We tend to be overachievers, and we do create our own, but we also use ones like this is Wingworks you can find on YouTube. We love the speech and language songs that you can find on YouTube. And then we also have resources for parents. So we use Seesaw for our younger students and Schoology for our older students. And that's how we share materials with parents. And so we will send home these videos. We will send home the sheets for them to put on the fridge. We'll send home core boards that are highlighted that they can put, again, on their fridge or around their house, bookmarks, any way that we can show them how get more comfortable with these words. And even at the top here, you see, I can use my powerful word help. What we'll do is we will actually print these out and put them on labels, and we'll put them on the student's shirt. So when they come home, they know what the powerful word is that week, even if they didn't go in their backpack. So as I mentioned, we'll a lot of the teams will figure out in advance what the words are prior to, they'll figure out maybe month by month. Some of them have mapped out the whole entire year, and then everybody is on the same page with knowing what the powerful words are and what's coming up. For our high school and transition students, they've really gone through the majority of our words. And so what we've done for them is we're really targeting more social phrases. So you can see here when they're mapping it out, the first week of school, they're targeting, I need help, please. The second week of school, the phrase, hi, how are you? So we're really focusing more on social phrases. For each one of the target phrases, we have a colored out visual. Some staff wear a mini version on their lanyard, and I have a picture of that. Parents are notified and get the visual strip. We have a video model then of saying the phrase, both on core boards, devices, and verbally. And we have a video model of them saying it, as I mentioned that on the devices. And here's what that looks like. We wear those around our lanyards. And we do keep all of our powerful word resources organized in folders in Google Drive. So we have them delineated by each one of the, we have a folder for each one of the powerful words. And then we continue to share resources and add to that. So if I search the word help, I will then come up with the help sign language video, the help video model, the visual for help, the help book, the help song, and all different activities that you can do with the word help. So that's the target word approach. And next is the activity first approach. So this is where you plan the lesson first and then pull some core words and phrases that can be used and focused on throughout that lesson. It's just some of the benefits to this approach are you can learn this approach or use this approach with any lesson or activity that you already have planned. The staff knows in advance what words and phrases to model throughout the activity. And staff can get familiar with the vocabulary and practice the modeling before the activity even begins. And I'll show you how this looks. Our staff loves this. So again, you're pulling core words from the lesson. You're going to plan the lesson first and then pull the words and phrases that can be used and focused on throughout that lesson. So this, again, we had sheets for our staff to fill out. Now they're very well versed, but it really is something that is very helpful. And if you have new staff that are working with your students, it is definitely a great idea to go ahead and do this because the staff that are new to core and modeling are very much appreciative of you taking a couple extra steps for your lessons, especially the lessons that you do on a regular basis. If you're always doing a morning circle that looks somewhat similar, go ahead and have this and laminate it and have it ready to go for your staff because it's very, very helpful for them. If you have certain activities that they do on a regular basis, again, these are the first ones that you want to use this mini lesson plan approach to. So we have a very simple sheet here. Staff fill out, they write the activity, they write down core words and phrases that they can pull out from that activity, they don't have to fill out every box. It's not to overwhelm them. Just pick, a few phrases based on the level of where the staff are. If there's any key fringe words that you want to target, write those on there. And then I'm going to show you how we work this because not only do you have it here, but we have a nice way for you to be able to see it on a board or device. Some staff are more visual and even like to break it up into even more pragmatic functions. So this is another example that we've used. And what I did was I revised it from Saltillo's, which you'll see in a moment, which you can pull right off their website. But we made it a little more simplistic for our staff. So you write the lesson or activity in the middle, and then you write core phrases that will go well with that lesson or activity in each one of these boxes. So comments and social, questions, describing words, action words, and comments. And you'll see both of these filled out in a moment. So here's an example of filling out the mini lesson plan. If you are, reading books, if you're doing a shared reading activity, here are some core words and phrases that you can use. And then staff can fill out any additional core words and phrases and fringe words. Here's an example of this one filled out. So for example, at a middle school, high school transition program, the students are making toast. So you write that in the middle, that's the activity. Socially, I can say, oh, I like it, or you did good, or can I have that? Some action words, put it in, take it out. Some comments, it is hot, I need help, it is finished. So there's some examples of these filled out. And here's that Saltillo one that is on their website. They have a blank one that you can print out, and they go even more in depth. So how this works, again, the staff just brainstorm the vocabulary based on that specific activity or lesson, and they just write down the core words and phrases and any additional fringe. So you just choose one of these. We just have a couple different examples for our staff to choose from. And then the next step, which is our paraprofessionals absolutely love this step, is that we'll go ahead and we'll slide our core board, our universal core board, into a clear page protector. And we have a dry erase marker, and the staff will circle those words on the board. It really helps the staff to not be so overwhelmed. They just have to focus on those words that are circled. And then staff will add any fringe if needed at the top, and then practice on the board or device. So I've walked into classrooms and I see the staff looking at the phrases and just practicing really quick. So when it comes time to the activity, they're much more confident with their modeling. If we do have a vocabulary builder or masking on a student's device, we can also then use that at the time if needed. Again, I avoid masking if possible, but if it's needed for that particular lesson, certainly you could do that. And then finally, it's just begin the activity and model throughout the activity, whether it's on the student's device, it's on a large core, your universal core board in the front, or the small board that you circled. And that is lesson planning with core in mind.
Thank you for watching. For more information on the ATP education program, please visit our website at atp.nebraska.gov/education or email us at atp.education@nebraska.gov.